Hey, I wanted to talk about a couple ways that we can tell, kind of right off the bat, if someone that we're dealing with might not be a safe person or they might be problematic or abusive or something. Um, and it is a couple of things. One, well, let me back it up. So, when you first meet people and you're in that process of maybe building a connection, there is an identity building stage where all of us, we all do it, where we say, oh, this is who I am. And it is the tell part of the show and tell of a relationship. So we'll tell each other who we are. And then as the relationship progresses, we'll show who we are. Unfortunately, sometimes people's models aren't adaptive. So I've noticed, in myself, with other victims of abuse, that they would, give strong credence to what someone was telling them, and then not adapting their inner model of who this person is through what they're showing them. And I want to be clear. We all do this. It's being human is about meaning, making meaning. And so that means of our life, that means of ourself, that means of our connections and relationships. So it's not bad that anybody does this. But, so instead of waiting for the show part, where they show you, oh, what I told you wasn't necessarily accurate, or what I'm showing you is different. Sometimes we can tell in the tell phase, regardless of what meaning a person has built around it. And so a couple of these are, if they do not have any long-term relationships in their life, or they have relationships, but they're all somehow toxic. If the person has relationships, they don't respect any of these people. They they think they're bad in some way, or they just don't, sometimes they don't think they're smart enough, or whatever it is, they don't respect them. And if they're not happy, which that one's a hard one, because, we all hit those periods where we're not happy. So that one's not necessarily run away, but maybe don't get so close, because, what I've learned is that a happy person cannot make an unhappy person happy. I truly got that lesson on a trip last year that I took, and I was hanging out with somebody, and we were having a great time. And I was happy, and I thought this person was happy, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm so glad I did this. And then, right in the middle of my trip, they start talking about how they're sad and they miss this person from years ago. And it was it took over the whole day. I was like, what is happening? There, it was, I don't know if it was intrinsically couldn't allow themselves to be happy. Oh, maybe I'm betraying this, it just couldn't exist in this, whatever it was. And that to me, I was like, oh man, okay. All right. I might be almost 40, but I'm finally getting this. If you hang out with unhappy people, you're not going to make them happy, but they might make you unhappy. Unhappy people have a way of sucking the joy out of stuff. Sometimes it's hard to tell too, because sometimes unhappy people might have these periods of I don't want to call it mania, because not everybody, that's real clinical. But this kind of manic, I'm in a party mood kind of a deal. That seems like it might be, this is a happy person, but truly isn't. They're not happy. And it's hard. Again, we all have those periods. And I wish that weren't true. I did notice over the past year, actually now a year and a half really, but all these people that I had in my life, all of these things were showing up. They either from their perspective, like when we're in the tell period and they're telling me about why I have toxic people in my life, or why I don't have relationships, or why I'm surrounded with people that I don't respect. And it seems, I guess that seems reasonable. But at the end of the day, in and of itself, that's kind of information that's really important to have. This person cannot, even if it's not from, like, let's say, like a narcissist, might want to keep people around that they don't respect because it makes them feel better. But it could be that someone who doesn't have good boundaries, feels very difficult to walk away maybe from people, especially if the alternative is being alone and they don't know how to be alone, which is not something I learned until quarantine, how to be alone. So, I mean, I strongly, I relate, I get it. But it's, if you try to avoid that, it'll come get you eventually. So, toxic people they don't respect, or no relationships, no long-term relationships, and deeply unhappy. If we are in that space, if we are the people maybe who are surrounded by toxic people, who don't have maybe long-term friends, or are surrounded by people we don't respect, and who are deeply unhappy, that's good information for us to have, in terms of, first, like, a healthy person's not going to want to be around any of that. But secondly, that means something probably needs to be different. That we got to either look at something differently, make some different choices. I definitely mentioned this on this subreddit, and I think in another video too. My life drastically improved when I cut out, regardless of, like, I care about this person, when I cut out toxic, negative people, judgmental, critical, abusive, I didn't want to let certain people go, because I really, really, really cared about them. And, also, I did feel like a sense of obligation, like, they've been there for me in whatever ways that they could be. Also, I mean, having a compassionate heart and not wanting to leave people alone, but that was bad boundaries on me, because it's not my responsibility to meet their emotional needs. We do mutually meet each other's needs in relationships, but if it's all on you, that's a bad sign. That means it's going to go south at some point, because you can't love them into wholeness. You can love them and support them as they learn to do it themselves into wholeness, but really that's, again, mostly a job for a therapist. It's not our job. So anyway, on that note, I hope you all have a good day, and I'll talk to you next time.